Well, I want to welcome Jennifer Young from the Wyoming Constitution Party. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Don.
So, tell us a little bit about the Constitution Party. I mean, I know a lot of people might have some misconceptions and might not have even heard of you guys. I mean, actually, I mentioned to someone the other day that you were coming in, and they're, well, we have a Constitution Party. And so tell us a little bit about what you guys do and how you got started.
Well, the Constitution Party has been around on the national level since the 90s, started by Howard Phillips, who was a conservative Republican. The Wyoming Constitution Party, we had our Constitution Convention, our party convention, first party convention in July of 2010. And so we have been organized in the state since 2010 and then gained ballot access in 2011. And it was actually the beginning. We began in 2011 and achieved ballot placement in 2012. It was the 2012 election that we garnered enough votes that we actually rocketed from provisional party to minor party status in the year of 2012, one election cycle.
Oh, wow. So I mean, I don't know how much you know about the national, because where I come from, I grew up in Pennsylvania and I lived in Delaware right before I moved here. The Constitution Party's been there for a while. I mean, I was always used to seeing them on the ballot. Was the Constitution Party, was it kind of formed by people that were disgruntled with the Republican Party in general?
That's the way I see it. They were tired of politics as usual, and mostly aggravated with the breaking away of constitutional principle.
Oh yeah, and you hear quite a bit of disillusionment, especially within the Republican Party these days.
Right, and that is due to the politics as usual.
Yeah.
So these individuals were convicted and had a love of country and a respect for the document that ensured the liberties and freedoms we exercise here, and the concept behind a constitutional republic.
Right, and that also extends to the state level as well. I mean, you did the state constitution as part of that. Right,
the state constitution in no way, shape, or form contradicts the U.S. Constitution. It acknowledges it as the supreme law of the land and just builds on that in the capacity of state sovereignty. And so knowing each of those documents is really important for individuals. And that's one of the passions of our party is education. Education of the electorate, education to the next generation, instilling that next generation with the love of freedom and a knowledge and respect for our good form of government.
Right. Yeah. So how did you come about? How did you come about being part of this party?
Well, I've lived in Wyoming all my life, and so I've been very comfortable and very protected and guarded, and became, for much of my life, one of the politically apathetic. I bought into the lie that my voice didn't matter.
Well, yeah, and I will tell you, coming from, I came from two very blue states, and I've always voted Republican for the most part. I will admit that I voted for Perot the first time, but that's neither here nor there. I can definitely identify with the thought that your vote doesn't matter. But I think in a state like this, that really isn't true, because it's such a small state that a few votes anyway could change things.
Right, but it's always been such a conservative state, and there's a difference between conservative and constitutionally conservative. What I found through the last few months is that a lot of us are constitutionally conservative. We are under the umbrellas of a whole lot of different political parties, but we're constitutionally conservative. I met recently a constitutionally conservative Democrat. I've been working with libertarians and Tea Party members and Republicans, and there still is quite a common constitutional.
Oh yeah, and I'd imagine you probably run into quite a few Democrats in this state that that you really don't vary that much from views, because I mean, one thing I've learned, and I've talked to some people from the Democratic Party here in Wyoming, is a Democrat here really isn't like a New York or a California Democrat. It really is. I mean, it is really a more traditional conservative type viewpoint.
Right.
So your idea with the party is that this gives constitutional conservatives a place to call home.
Exactly. But more where I was going with that was that when I passed that point of apathy and realized that my voice did matter, and started searching for the answer to the question, what is my role in ensuring the next generation learns this concept and it's not lost, and I just started seeking for a place to call home, not knowing, I was watching how the Republicans were voting, and it wasn't really in line with my values as a Republican, and I was starting to investigate and learn and educate myself and dig a little bit more, and they just were not voting in line with what I would consider my values. Most importantly, a lot of them, not all of them, are forgetting the documents, the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of our state. I think it's really important that we get back to those principles. I am not the only one that thinks that's important.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
So how's the response been? I mean, do you know how many members you have at this point?
We were growing through the referendum effort. I know that we were right around 300 as far as people who had actually gone down and signed and switched over the last time. It must have been April or May that I checked. I've been pretty busy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But it's one of those things where you've obviously gotten enough signatures on your petitions from Republicans and maybe Democrats as well that even though you might only have a few hundred registered, there's actually, I guess, more support for you than that.
Right. Yes. Well, since we have kind of referred to the referendum effort, I guess we will talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Through the referendum effort. So we.
Yeah, actually, since I'm, I know the basics of it, but I'd like to hear, since you're the one that actually, came forth with the idea. Tell us a little bit about how that got started.
Okay. Recently, this legislative session, the last legislative session, 62nd legislative session, 2013, in January, it came to the attention of many. Well, before that, it was in the attention of several people that this bill, Senate File 104, was being debated, and it was one of the first introduced into debates, actually. And in January, it came to my attention when I started going to some meetings, informational meetings. Actually, we had called our representative, Matt Teeter's, home and asked him to explain this to us, the sense of urgency, the need for it, all in all, and also help us wrap our minds around, because many of us were already pegging it as an unconstitutional activity, the method that they were trying to use to usurp an elected position.
And just for those that don't know, the bill takes away a lot of the powers of the state superintendent of public instruction. Right.
According to a list I got by way of the Wyoming Center for Constitutional Law, over 100 of the general supervisory duties. Okay, so pretty much all of the important duties of the office, then. All the natural substantive duties, right? Everything that constituted to superintend. Right. And this is actually a position that's specifically laid out in the Constitution? Right. It's constitutionally prescribed in Article 7, Section 14 of the Wyoming State Constitution indicates that the general supervision of public instruction is entrusted to, by the people, a superintendent of public instruction. Okay, so whose duties and powers are prescribed by law. Okay, so this and you guys say this is unconstitutional, and that's where the referendum comes from. Then, yes. The idea of the referendum is to repeal that law. Then, right? It's unconstitutional because it violates the very Constitution in method, this should have required a constitutional amendment to alter an executive branch office elected position through statute manipulation to the magnitude that it was done required a constitutional amendment, and that necessitates the vote of the people. So here's the complaint, is that in violating the Constitution, they've nullified the vote of the people.
And this would be the equivalent maybe on a little bit larger scale, but it would be almost like the legislature voting to take away the governor's rights to veto bills.
Right.
I mean that would be a lot. It'd be a lot higher on the scale, but it's the same principle.
Right.
Okay.
Which in itself is a direct violation of the Constitution. Article 2, Section 1, there's a separation of powers that says that none of the individuals with any one branch will meddle with the affair.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And the legislators have the authority to change statute. I mean, they can introduce bills, they can create new offices. They can't strip an executive position of all of the duties that constitute that position, funnel them to an appointed bureaucrat, and not get our say.
Right. Okay. And I think Wyoming. I don't know how unique Wyoming is as far as the head of the state education board being an elected position. I don't know how many states are like that, but that is something that was unusual to me. I mean, I don't think I've ever lived in a place like that.
We were only one of 6 states remaining who maintain that power in the people, basically, through that position. Okay, so I mean, and the idea of this is to try to keep that as a voter accountable position. Right. Okay, that makes sense. So that led to when a bad law is passed, we do have recourse as a people, and that is the referendum effort. Article 3, Section 52 of the Wyoming State Constitution says that the people can reject acts of legislation by the referendum process, and that is where, obviously, I started looking for information about the process. Was our Constitution. It is vaguely lined out in there and then expounded upon in the statute. Right. And to get a referendum started, you have to collect a certain number of signatures. Right. In an initiative or a referendum, initiative is the way we introduce a bill as a body of people. You have to fill out an application with 3 main sponsors for the initiative or referendum, pay $500 filing fee. Oh, of course. There's always a filing fee. And a minimum 100 co-sponsors that say, I agree with these people that a petition needs to be made to get signatures to have this put to the ballot. Oh, okay. So it's not a question of having a certain percentage of the population like some states with referendums. It's once we had the petitions made, we had a percentage goal. Yes. Oh, okay. So once you have to get the thing started, before you even do that, you have to have 100 co-sponsors, and that could just be everyday citizens, right? Yes. Okay. Registered voters. Okay. So, and then after that, then you have a petition that you can go around and get. What's the percentage goal? It's 15% of the registered voters of ballot casts in the previous election. So our 2012 election, we had 270 some odd thousand individuals cast ballots. And so 15% of that was 37,606. So our task was to get 37,606 signatures. And that's a significant number in this state. Right. Well, and it had to represent 15% of 2/3 of the county. So 15% of the state as a whole and 15% of 2/3 of the counties, which was 16 counties. So you couldn't even just go to Cheyenne and get 37,000 signatures. You had to go everywhere around the state. So I mean, it's a process that's designed to get a consensus of the state, not just one place. Right. So, and I think that's one of maybe some of the flaws that some other states have with their referendums is. I don't know how Colorado exactly does it, but it seems like a lot of the things going on in Colorado right now are being run by just one little area there, and the rest of the state is kind of
kind of out of luck. So
right.
I think it seems like a pretty fair system. I mean, how hard was it for you to get the signatures?
The major block was time. The initiative allows a lot more time than the referendum. The referendum to reject legislation is only 90 days from the end of legislative session. To turn in your application, have the petitions made, get your volunteers organized, and get those 15% from 15% of the counties. 90 days from the end of legislative session.
But you did make it.
We fell short of the threshold of signatures.
Oh, okay.
Right. We ran out of time. We were well underway, and we just ran out of time. And
when did you run out of time? Because I thought it was when did the time run out on it?
May 28th.
May 28th. Okay, I remember seeing something about it in the news, but I've been so overwhelmed since I came here that I do remember seeing something about it in the news, but yeah, I guess I thought that it had actually. So is this something you're going to try again?
I would like to. Of course, the issue is too important of an issue to drop, and so we are looking at our next moves as a group. But I would like to touch back on the issue or the subject of the Constitution Party, because it was the Constitution Party that initiated and sponsored the referendum, and I'm pretty pleased with the group for doing so. It's difficult to call people to action.
Right.
And to be involved with a group, such a large group of people who, yet still small, who are patriotically minded and respectful of the Constitution and the intent of our framers, and the belief that our problem lies in focusing more on principle rather than politics, the Constitution rather than the conflicts and the micromanagement and everything.
Sure.
And
I think that's the trap that a lot of politicians, once they get to the state capitol or to Washington D.C. especially. It seems like a lot of people, maybe well-intentioned, but they end up falling into the trap of politics.
Exactly. Or their voice is just a lot quieter.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to read our foundational plank from the Constitution Party, and that is: the sole object and only legitimate end of the government is to secure our God-given rights of life, liberty, and ownership and control of property. Individuals have the right and responsibility to protect these God-given rights, and proper government is an extension of the individual's right of self-defense. When government assumes other functions, it is usurpation and oppression. And so our foundational plank speaks volumes, not just about what we stand for, but also reasoning for doing what we did. The referendum, initiating the referendum process against the bad bill, Senate File 104.
Yeah.
It was a gross overreaching.
Yeah, and we talked about this before we started rolling tape, but a lot of people are maybe I don't know, misinformed or have a misconception about this, that this is about one person, but this is about the law itself and the protecting the powers of the elected office, not defending any one person.
Right. I can see where the electorate would be confused, the public would be confused about it, because the same legislators who say that this is not about Cindy Hill, that they didn't want to do SF 104, they had to do SF 104, basically due to our incapacity to choose the person who had the general supervisory duties of our educational system. These individuals have all along said they had to do it. It wasn't a personal thing. These very same people are keeping it very personal, and that's starting to really reflect, I believe, to the public. Just the mad fury to cover their own track, so to speak.
Right. And I don't really have a dog in the fight, so I guess my question would be to somebody that says it's not about any one person. What happens when that person's out of office? And that's the question, because then that office has been stripped of power forever. Because I can't remember the last time I can think of a government giving liberties back. Right.
No. I would like to be really very clear that Senate File 104 was about the constitutional structure of our government. This is about centralization of Wyoming state government. It's about federalization of our education. And it's a power grab by some individuals who are very comfortable with their power.
Okay. And you don't have to go any further than that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of gets the idea.
Sure.
So I guess what's the next step for you then?
We are continuing to educate. As I said, one of our passions with the Constitution Party, and one of mine personally, is education. This is going to be the key. The answer to the problems that plague our societies, our communities, our society, our nation as a whole lies within each one of us. And that involves individual responsibility. We need to know our role in this good form of government, in a government of the people, for the people, by the people. The people can't leave a void as we did.
Right.
Because then you have others, they tend to be elitist, and it is what it is, who are more than happy to fill that void and tell the rest of us how to live. And most people, it's human nature that once you get a taste of that power, you exercise dominion. There are many people who want to be our master. And that's what that power does. And that's how it corrupts the heart of man.
Right. And I think it's a trap that a lot of people fall into.
Exactly. Yes, you have to be very steadfast, I believe, in faith. That is one of the things I believe, as many of us believe, has led to the current decline that we see. I serve the Creator of all things first and foremost. I'm a mother, a grandmother. I manage a home-based business. I'm just the average person who happened to be studying and educating myself and understood what they did was wrong in this.
Right, and you thought you had to do something.
Right, and so education. So this is key. We will continue forth with education. I would encourage people to investigate the Constitution Party more. Go to our website. The Constitution Party of Wyoming's website is wyomingconstitutionparty.com. All one word. Our national website is constitutionparty.com. We're easy to find.
Okay, and I guess any closing thoughts? I mean, anything maybe I might have missed, or any word that you want to get out about?
Yes, another one of the next steps that we're taking, and it's kind of overlapping with what we did with the referendum as it was begun first. As many people do know, Cindy Hill, the current superintendent of public instruction, when SF 104 was passed, did file a suit with District Court of Laramie County against the governor and legislators for unconstitutionality of SF 104. She has co-complainants who are representing we the people in this, and so I would refer people to that as a good place to throw their weight behind to help with the next endeavor. I know I was running into a lot of people that when they did sign, they were asking to be wrapped into whatever you're doing next. I want in.
Right. So
we want in.
So that's the next step in the fight then.
Right. To support that we the people end of the unconstitutional court case battle.
Right.
And they can do that by informing others, word of mouth. That's the best venue. Or writing articles, about what's going on, the lawsuit, what's gone on with SF 104. And the Wyoming Center for Constitutional Law at P.O. Box 4021 in Cheyenne, 82003, would be the place that, should people care to send donations to the legal end of that.
Right. So to help out with the legal side of that.
Exactly. And speaking of gift giving that way, the Constitution Party, of course, always needs donations. Help us help you defend your future freedoms. And so there's an easy way to donate on the Constitution Party website as well. And
that's wyomingconstitutionparty.com.
Right.
So then they definitely want to go to the state version to make a donation. That way, that way you guys get it directly.
Right.
So
that way we can directly defend their freedoms here in the state. That's helpful that way.
There you go. And I mean, I think making a difference like that, I mean, it's always a good thing.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for coming in and talking with us. Jennifer Young from the Wyoming Constitution Party, and I'm sure we'll get to see you again. I'm sure this is not going to be over anytime soon, and even once this is over, I'm sure you guys will have something else that you want to get into. So
right.
We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Oh, I wanted to say thank you to all the people that signed the petition, the 22,000 people that did sign the petition before we ran out of time. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
There you go. And I can tell you by the calls that we get, I'm sure quite a few of our listeners probably did sign that. So thanks a lot, Jennifer Young, Wyoming Constitution Party, WyomingConstitutionParty.com, or the national website, constitutionparty.com.